Chapter 6, page 74. My biggest problem was getting to see Mr. Heron. If Father saw me talking to him, he'd be suspicious. And if he found out it was me who started the conversation, he'd know right away what it was all about. But luckily, 2 days later, Mr. Heron came into the tavern to buy a small keg of rum. My father wasn't around, and Mother said, "Tim will bring it right over, Mr. Heron." So I slung, that means to carry over, slung the keg of rum over my shoulder and followed Mr. Heron up the road to his house, which was only a couple of 100 yards away from the tavern. We went around to the back, and I carried the keg into the kitchen and set it on the rack. He reached into his pocket and handed me a penny. "Thank you, sir," I said. "Have you thought any more about studying surveying with me someday?" "Well, I haven't, sir, but I was thinking through, though, that I might like to earn some money at that job you mentioned before." "Aha," he said. "Your father changed his mind, did he?" "Yes, sir," I said. "He said it would be all right so long as he didn't know anything about it. If I just went and didn't tell him anything, he said he wouldn't object." Mr. Heron put his hand on my arm and gave me a little squeeze. "That's a lie, isn't it, Timothy?" I got hot and blushed. What does your cheeks look like when you blush?
Pink.
Pink or red, yeah. "I guess so, sir." He let go of my arm. "Your father doesn't change his mind very often, nor easily." I felt stupid and looked down at the ground. "Yes, sir," I said. "I'd still like to go, though. Aren't we supposed to be loyal to the king?" He stroked his chin like this. "Not everyone thinks so." "I do, though." I didn't mean I didn't have any opinion either way, but I thought it would help if he believed that I was a strong loyalist. He smiled a kind of funny smile. "You've got your brother's spirit, haven't you?" Being compared with Sam made me feel good. "I'm as brave as he is," I said. "I believe it. Suppose I'd let you run some errands for me. What would you tell your father?" "I'd tell him I was shad fishing." "And come home with no fish?" "I'd tell him there weren't many running or something. You can't always expect to catch something." He rubbed his forehead, thinking. "All right. If you come up early tomorrow morning, I'll have something for you to earn a shilling or so." So that night I asked Father if I could go fishing again, and he said yes. I felt sort of bad about it. It was lying, and lying was a sin, and so it was going against your father. And even if I hadn't been a sin, I would have felt badly about it because Father trusted me, and I was being dishonorable. But I wanted some glory too, much to be honorable. So Wednesday morning I got up way before the sun when it was just beginning to get light, took my fishing line and hooks and made my excuse hold up, and walked down to Mr. Heron's house. So he's pretending he's going. He's like getting his fishing hooks and being like, "All right, see you later." Is he really going to go fishing?
No.
I was lucky. It was a good day. The time of year it could easily have been pouring rain and cold. But the sun came up and there were only streaks of cloud in the sky. The birds were singing and the wildflowers along the roadsides were bright and gay. I felt excited in a good way. And as I walked along to Mr. Heron's, I began to whistle Yankee Doodle. Before I remembered that I ought to keep quiet so people wouldn't notice where I was going. When I got to Mr. Heron's house, I went around back to the kitchen door and started to knock. But I had hardly got my first knock up when the door jerked open and Mr. Heron grabbed me by the arm and pulled me in. So do you think that Mr. Heron wants people to see that Tim's there?
No.
He's trying to be secretive too. We walked down a hall and into the study. A study is like a room with books. It's like your little personal library, or sometimes you have a desk in it. It seemed awfully rich to me. There was a little stove there with a few coals glowing and a desk piled high with papers and carpet on the floor and a chest of drawers. He sat down at the desk, wrote something out on a piece of paper, and sealed it up. "Timothy, you'll have to move quickly. This message has to get to Fairfield. It will take you at least 5 hours to walk there and 5 hours to walk back, and you'll have to be home before dark in order to not raise suspicions. Have you ever been to Fairfield?" "A couple of times," I said. with Father and Sam to get rum. Then you'll know where the dock is. The dock is the pieces of wood that goes out on the water where boats come in. Like if you were going to get on a boat. There's a dock on Beaver Lake too. You can go out on it and fish. Now listen carefully. Just before you get to the dock, there's a road off to the left. Down the road, there's about a mile. There's a house with white siding and green trim. Knock there. Ask for Mr. Burr and give him this letter. He'll give you a shilling, right? Now repeat it back. I did so. Then I tucked the letter down inside my shirt and left, slipping out the back way and through the pasture before I cut into the road. The sun was now up and rising over the meadowland to the east. I judged it to be about 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun wouldn't go down again until about 7 at night, which gave me 12 hours. Plenty of time if I walked swiftly, so he needs to walk pretty quick. In fact, if everything went well, I could easily be back by the middle of the afternoon, which might even give me time to catch a few shades to show Father. I hid the fishing tackle behind a stone wall just in case. I moved at a brisk pace. Brisk means when you're walking like this. You're kind of walking faster. Despite the sun, the air in the morning was cool and fresh. It was nice weather for walking, and I felt excited, not scared. I was worried about dropping the letter, though. I kept touching it to make sure I hadn't fallen out of my shirt. After a while, I came to a place where the road from the center runs into Fairfield Road. I stopped for a minute to rest and to see if I couldn't find a better way to stow the letter so it would be safe. I was trying to find a way to hitch it under my belt when I heard somebody shout. I looked up. Betsy Reed was coming down the road from the center. "Hello, Tim," she said. "Hello." She came up to me. "What are you doing here? What's that?" Hastily, I shoved the letter back into my shirt, so like this, quickly. "Nothing," I said. "Well, it isn't nothing. It's a letter." She smiled. "You've got a girlfriend." No, I said. "I have to go. I'm kind of in a hurry." "I'll walk with you," she said. "Where are you going?" It made me nervous having her walk along with me. She wasn't suspicious about anything, and I didn't think she would go down to the tavern and tell Father she'd seen me. But if she should happen accidentally to bump into him, she might say something. "I'm going fishing," I said. "Fishing? On the Riverfield Road?" There is shade in the mill stream." "Well, you're going in the wrong direction," she said. "Oh, well, I know that. I was just up there already, but there weren't any shade, so I'm going somewhere else now." I was blushing from telling so many lies. Lying is a sin. "Don't you want to know where I'm going?" she said. Sure," I said. "I'm going down to Horseneck. Guess what I'm doing?" It was better to have her talk than me, because it saved me lying. I don't know, shopping for cloth?" "Guess again," she said. Horseneck was down on Long Island Sound, too, but much farther down than Fairfield. I couldn't figure out what she might be doing there. "Visiting your cousins?" "I don't have any cousins down there." "What then?" "Seeing Sam," she said. I stopped dead in the road. "Sam? Is he in Horseneck?" "I shouldn't tell you that. You're a Tory. Anyway, he's not there anymore. They've gone somewhere else." We weren't walking along anymore, but facing each other, and I was all excited. "How do you know Sam's there?" "Mr. Heron told me." "Mr. Heron? How does he know? He's a Tory." She frowned. "Well, I know that, but he said that Sam was there with a commissary officer scouting for beef." It didn't make any sense. Mr. Heron was supposed to be a Tory. He wasn't supposed to know where the American commissary officers were. Suddenly I realized I was wasting time. "Where is he now?" "I won't tell you. You're a Tory." "That's not fair, Betsy. He's my brother." "God, Tim, you tried to shoot him." I blushed. "Is Sam all right?" "Yes, he was in a battle. I guess I better not tell you about that." You can tell me if it already happened, can't you?" "I better not," she said. "Listen," I said. "I better get going." We started walking. "Where are you off to in such a rush?" she said. "If you won't tell me anything, I won't tell you anything either." I thought it was a pretty smart answer. It was like one of the ones It was like one of Sam's telling points. All right, sulk. That means to do this, like pout. Besides, I know you're carrying a love letter for somebody. You've just got love on your mind because of Sam, I said. Something was puzzling me. Betsy, how come Mr. Heron didn't tell me about Sam this morning? Because you're a Tory. But so is he, I said. She stopped. What were you doing seeing Mr. Heron this morning? I realized I had made a bad mistake. Oh, I just happened to go by his house this morning and he was there. There? Where? He was staying in the yard. Doing what? She asked. How do I know what he was doing? He wouldn't have been standing. The letter. Tim, you're lying. The letter. He gave you the letter to carry, Tim. Where are you going with that letter? She was pretty excited and kind of bouncing around in front of me. I have to go, Betsy. She jumped in my way. Oh, no, you don't. Not until you tell me about this letter. She was bigger than me, but not by much, and I figured that since I was a boy, I could break away from her and run if she tried to stop me. That's a private letter, I said. I can't tell you about it. Oh, no, Tim? Give me that letter. No, I said. I tried to duck past her, but she jumped in front of me again. Tim, you know what's in the letter? A spy report on Sam. That shocked me. It can't be. Why would Mr. Heron make me spy on Sam? Not just on Sam. Can't you see? He found out about Sam and the commissary officer buying beef, and now he's sending news to the lobsterback so they'll know where to find them and kill them and steal the cows. Give me that letter! She snatched at my shirt, but I ducked back. Don't, Betsy. It's Mr. Heron's. Tim, you're going to get Sam killed. They'll be set up an ambush for them, and then they'll kill them all. No. That's true, Tim. Figure it out. You can't deliver that letter. I have to, I said. She stood in front of me, kind of begging. Tim, let's just open it and see. If there's nothing important in it, then you can deliver it. You can't break the seal, Betsy. It's Mr. Heron's letter. I could be put in jail for that. Tim, it's your brother they're going to kill. Just throw the letter away and say you lost it. I didn't know what to do. I felt awful, sick and scared. I didn't say anything. Tim, give me the letter. Betsy. Then she jumped me. She caught me completely by surprise. She just leapt onto me and I fell backwards and she was lying on top of me, trying to wrestle her hands down inside my shirt. Darn it, you, Betsy, I shouted. I grabbed her by the hair and tried to pull her head backward. She jerked away from me. I began kicking her onto my feet, trying to catch her someplace where I wouldn't hurt, but she kept wriggling from side to side on top of me, and I couldn't get in a good kick. I hit her on the back in that position. I couldn't get much more force. Get off me, Betsy! Not until I get that letter, she said. She jerked at my shirt, trying to pull it up. I grabbed at her hands and twisted my body underneath her to turn her over so I would be on top. Then she pushed her whole weight down on me, grunting. Ugh! So I slammed her as hard as I could on the side of the head. You little, she shouted. She let go of my shirt with one hand and slapped me as hard as she could across the face. My nose went numb and my eyes stung and tears began to come. Darn you, I shouted. I let go of her hand where she was clutching my shirt and grabbed her by the shoulders, trying to push her off me. She jerked my shirt upwards, grabbed the letter, and jumped to her feet. Without rising, I kicked out my feet at her ankles. I got in a good one. She stumbled, but she didn't fall. By the time I got up, she was running down the field road as hard as she could, opening the letter as she went. I started to run after her, and she flung the letter over her shoulders onto the road and disappeared out of sight onto the next bend. I ran to the letter and picked it up. It was rumpled and dirty. All it said is, if this message is received, we will know that the messenger is reliable. Done.